Racist Karen insults black female pilot. What happened next shocked everyone. Karen Rossi, a middle-aged woman from Italy living in the United States, considered herself a seasoned world traveler. Karen was known for her bluntness, but sometimes that directness crossed a line. On this day, she was at JFK Airport, set to fly cross-country to Los Angeles for a family reunion. But before we dive into what happens next, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from today? Drop a comment below. Karen strolled to the boarding gate, scanning her surroundings with a slight air of superiority. Her eyes landed on a confident black woman in a crisp airline uniform, standing by the gate, checking her watch. The woman's poise and uniform seemed to unsettle Karen, who had never imagined a black woman in such an authoritative role in aviation. When boarding began, Karen couldn't help herself. She approached the woman and remarked with a half smirk, "Oh, are you part of the cleaning staff? I didn't know they let you near the planes." Her tone dripped with an assumption that the woman couldn't possibly hold a position of authority. Without missing a beat, the woman looked Karen in the eye and said calmly, "Actually, I'm Captain Nia Thompson, your pilot for today. It's my job to make sure you have a safe and comfortable flight." Karen's face flushed red, but she refused to back down. "Well, I just assumed," she stammered, clearly caught off guard. Her words trailed off as Captain Thompson held her gaze, a subtle smile on her face. Other passengers overheard the exchange, and a hush fell over the gate area. A few people began pulling out their phones, recording the interaction. The scene was unfolding quickly on social media, with passengers tweeting and posting videos in real time. The airline's staff intervened, firmly advising Karen that disrespectful behavior would not be tolerated. At this point, Karen was flustered but still defiant. She demanded to speak to a manager, insisting that she shouldn't have to fly with someone like her as the pilot. But Captain Thompson, ever composed, made a decision that took everyone by surprise. She turned to the airline's ground staff and said, "If she's uncomfortable flying with me, I'll gladly offer her a seat on the next available flight." She addressed Karen directly, her voice calm but unmistakably authoritative. "But I assure you, you won't be treated to any special favors for your behavior today." Karen's indignation began to wilt in the face of Captain Thompson's unflinching demeanor. For the first time, Karen seemed unsure, looking around and realizing that her actions had isolated her. Passengers were murmuring among themselves, with many nodding in support of the pilot. A young girl nearby tugged at her mother's hand, asking in a hushed voice, "Mom, can girls really be pilots?" The mother smiled, looking at Captain Thompson with admiration, and replied, "Yes, honey, girls can be anything they want to be." Karen, clearly seeing the ripple effects of her actions, hesitated. She had expected a confrontation that would go her way, but the captain's grace and professionalism had caught her off guard. With no other choice but to accept the consequences of her actions, Karen decided to take her seat on the flight. During the journey, the passengers experienced turbulence, and Captain Thompson's calm voice filled the cabin. She reassured everyone with the smooth authority only a seasoned professional could muster. The turbulence soon passed, and as calm returned to the plane, Karen seemed to sink lower in her seat, lost in her thoughts. When the plane landed in Los Angeles, the passengers erupted into spontaneous applause for Captain Thompson. As they disembarked, many stopped to thank her for her professionalism. Karen was among the last to leave. She looked at Captain Thompson, who stood at the cockpit door, welcoming each passenger. In a quiet, almost reluctant voice, Karen muttered, "Thank you." Captain Thompson nodded, her expression unreadable but dignified. "Have a good day, ma'am." As Karen walked through the terminal, her mind whirled with the intensity of what had just happened. She couldn't escape the glances from other passengers who had seen the scene unfold at JFK, and now, here in Los Angeles, some recognized her from the viral social media posts that had already begun circulating. A part of her wanted to rationalize her actions, to justify what she had said, but deep down, Karen felt something strange: guilt. Hours later, in the quiet of her hotel room, Karen's phone buzzed relentlessly. Friends and family had sent messages asking what had happened, and even colleagues had weighed in. Social media had lit up with videos of her encounter with Captain Thompson, and her name was trending for all the wrong reasons. The world was watching, and they were not on her side. Karen's pride flared, and she initially dismissed the backlash as overblown. But her curiosity got the better of her, and she began scrolling through comments. Many were condemning her actions, calling her out for blatant racism and entitlement. There were even comments from people claiming she should be banned from flying. One comment read, "Women like Karen represent everything wrong with society." Another simply said, "Captain Thompson is the hero we need." Her hand trembled, and her mind raced. She had been outed as a villain, and it gnawed at her. But somewhere in those comments, one person wrote, "I hope Karen realizes that people are capable of change." For days, Karen couldn't shake the memory of Captain Thompson's calm, yet unyielding expression. It wasn't just the embarrassment she had felt at being publicly put in her place. It was the realization that this woman, whom she had tried to belittle, had handled herself with a strength and dignity Karen had rarely seen. Unable to silence her conscience, Karen decided to do something out of character. She reached out to the airline and requested to speak to Captain Thompson personally, hoping to apologize, but her request was swiftly denied, citing Captain Thompson's need for privacy amid the media storm. Determined to set things right, Karen spent the following weeks learning about the racial injustices Black women like Captain Thompson face, especially in male-dominated fields. She read stories from other Black female pilots who had faced racism from passengers, employers, and colleagues alike. For the first time, she began to understand the challenges and subtle aggressions these women faced every day. Eventually, Karen took a step she never would have imagined. She wrote an open letter, which she submitted to the airline and posted publicly online. In it, she recounted the incident with raw honesty. "I was the woman who tried to degrade Captain Thompson at JFK. I wrongly assumed she was less than what she is, a woman of strength, dignity, and incredible professionalism. I made a mistake, and there's no excuse for it. My words reflected ignorance and entitlement, and I am deeply sorry." Asterisk. The letter went viral, sparking conversations and media coverage. But instead of dragging Captain Thompson's name through more turmoil, Karen's letter highlighted her own journey toward understanding her prejudices. Weeks later, Karen received a private message from an unexpected source. It was Captain Thompson herself. "Karen," it read, "I appreciate your message. Growth isn't easy, but it's necessary. If you're willing, I'd be open to having a conversation." The day they met, Karen felt a nervousness she hadn't felt in years. She sat across from Captain Thompson at a small, quiet cafe, feeling the full weight of the moment. Captain Thompson listened as Karen stumbled through her apology in person, expressing her regret and her newfound awareness. Karen, once so haughty and sure of herself, now seemed vulnerable and open in a way she had never been before. Captain Thompson, with the grace she had shown from the start, accepted Karen's apology. But she didn't let her off easily. "The real work," she told Karen, "comes from using this experience to make sure it doesn't happen again, to me or anyone else." Karen nodded, her face flushed. She left that meeting with a mission. From that day forward, she became involved in advocating for diversity and inclusion, volunteering her time to speak at events, and sharing her story, not to erase her mistake, but to own it, in the hope of sparking change in others who might walk the path she once had. Though she would never forget the humiliation, Karen came to realize that some lessons come only from moments of reckoning. And for her, it had taken the strength of a Black female pilot to help her confront the truth and ultimately to transform. Leave a comment if you enjoyed this story. It doesn't cost you anything and you'll make me very happy. Thank you, and I look forward to your like.